you guys mounted that monster comeback, 19-0 run. What led to that, and what was so effective to get that done to make it a game at the end?
Yeah, we did a lot better on the defense.
In the quiet hum of a Target store preparing for the holiday rush, the manager's hands trembled as she counted the receipt for the third time, unable to comprehend the figure staring back at her. $47,000 spent in a single afternoon by a young woman who had quietly filled 17 shopping carts with toys, clothes, winter essentials, and Christmas gifts for children she had never met, all without a whisper of publicity or personal recognition. It was the 15th of December 2024, a gray and bitterly cold Indianapolis afternoon, when Caitlin Clark stepped out of those doors after performing one of the most extraordinary acts of generosity the staff had ever witnessed, leaving behind instructions that would bring tears to dozens of families and restore a sense of wonder to an entire community that had begun to lose hope. For the workers, it seemed almost impossible that someone could spend in 2 hours what many households might not earn in a full year, especially not for themselves, but for the sole purpose of ensuring that children who had quietly surrendered to the idea that Christmas might pass them by would instead wake up believing, if only for a moment, that miracles still existed. Earlier that morning, Caitlin had been driving through the east side of Indianapolis after finishing practice, her mind consumed not by basketball schedules or media obligations, but by the heavy thought of a single letter that had been resting on her nightstand for weeks, a letter she could not shake. As she passed Riverside Elementary School, with its frost-tinted windows decorated in uneven paper snowflakes and handmade Christmas cutouts desperately trying to add color to a neighborhood long burdened by financial struggle, she felt something catch in her chest. She saw children walking home, some wrapped in coats far too thin for December winds, some carrying backpacks held together by hope more than stitching, and she thought again of the careful handwriting of 8-year-old Destiny Martinez, who had written to her through the Foundation's website, saying simply, "Dear Miss Caitlin, my mom says Santa might not come this year because we don't have enough money, but I still believe in magic. Do you think you could ask Santa to remember the kids at my school? We've all been really good this year. It wasn't a request for toys. It wasn't even a request for herself. It was a plea from a child who still believed that goodness could intervene if the right person listened." For 2 weeks, each time Caitlin saw that note beside her lamp, she felt a tightening in her chest, the kind that had nothing to do with game pressure or professional expectations. This was a different kind of responsibility, one that called not to the athlete in her but to the human being shaped by kindness, by a Midwestern upbringing, by memories of seeing classmates go without and wishing she could do more. When she quietly researched the school, she discovered that 93% of students qualified for free school meals, a stark indicator that most families lived below the poverty line. In a recent interview, the school counselor had heartbreakingly shared that many pupils would receive little to nothing for Christmas that year, as parents were forced to choose between heating their homes and buying gifts, often sacrificing their own comfort to ensure their children had enough to eat. Those stories stayed with her, echoing in her mind even after long practices, until she finally called the head teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, requesting a meeting. Not as Caitlin Clark, the WNBA star, but simply as someone who wanted to help. The conversation that followed was equal parts devastating and deeply inspiring, filled with stories of children who wrote to Santa asking not for toys, but for their fathers to find jobs, for their mothers to stop worrying, for the electricity to stay on, for things no child their age should even be aware of. Some had learned the painful habit of pret. They didn't want anything for Christmas, trying to shield their parents from guilt. When Caitlin asked how many pupils were affected, Mrs. Rodriguez had answered softly, "Around 420 in our school alone. But if you're thinking about the neighborhood, it's far more." In that moment, Caitlin asked the question that would reshape the holiday for hundreds of families. What would it take to give every single child a Christmas they'd never forget? What would it take to reignite wonder in a community that had been asked to endure far too much? What Mrs. Rodriguez didn't yet realize was that Caitlin wasn't asking hypothetically. She had already begun working out logistics in her head. Transport, privacy, timing, storage, volunteers, and above all, how to protect the dignity of every family involved. Her plan was simple in explanation yet monumental in execution. She would work with the school to collect wish lists from every child, then personally purchase each gift herself, ensuring each present matched exactly what the child had asked for, because specificity meant someone had truly listened. And every gift would be labeled only from Santa, preserving the magic for the children and the pride of the parents. When Caitlin entered Target at 6 in the morning with her assistant and 3 volunteers, armed with a 47-page list organized with meticulous detail, sizes, colors, preferences, notes from teachers, she did not move through the store like a celebrity on a shopping spree, but like a woman on a mission fueled by compassion. For 6 hours, she didn't rush, didn't cut corners, didn't simply grab whatever resembled the request. She read every single wish. She chose the precise Lego set Marcus had mentioned. She compared the shades of art supplies until she found the exact one Sophia had dreamed of. She tested plush toys until she found the softest dinosaur for little Carlos, who struggled to sleep through the night. Each gift mattered because each child mattered. And though no cameras followed her, no press release was prepared, and no social media announcement was posted, she left behind something far more powerful. The certainty that kindness, when done quietly and without expectation, can ripple.
I think the physicality level was a little bit different on both sides of the ball, and but for us, really, I think it's got to be our focus.
You can sense that the most profound acts of love are rarely the ones captured by cameras or performed for applause, but the quiet, deliberate choices made when no one is watching, when a person decides to pay attention to the details that matter only to the hearts receiving them. And that is precisely what Caitlin embodied as she spent nearly 20 minutes in the toy aisle searching for a specific doll that little 5-year-old Amelia had described in her letter. Not because it was the most expensive item nor the most dazzling, but because it was the one thing that child had been dreaming of, and dreams matter deeply, especially when children learn too young that they cannot always afford theirs. The store employees watched in awe as cart after cart filled with toys, warm clothing, trainers, cozy winter coats, art supplies, books, sports equipment, and practical essentials. Yet what struck them most was her almost reverent attention to detail, the way she double-checked each item against her carefully organized list, ensuring that every request was honored exactly as it had been written. "I've never seen anything like this," murmured Sarah Chun, the store manager, as she observed Caitlin selecting different sizes of the same jacket so that each child who had asked for warmer clothes would receive something that fit them perfectly, something chosen with intention and dignity. It was clear she wasn't simply purchasing gifts. She was weaving together small pieces of joy, crafting dreams into reality one child at a time. What followed, however, was beyond anyone's expectations. As word quietly traveled through the aisles about what Caitlin was doing, other customers began to take notice and respond in their own quiet ways. A grandmother shopping for her grandchildren slipped an extra toy into her trolley and asked if she could contribute it. A young father purchased a bicycle and asked the manager to add it to the gifts, and soon a small crowd had gathered at a respectful distance, not for photographs or spectacle, but to witness something beautiful unfolding in their community. The checkout alone took over an hour, each item bagged, labeled, and sorted according to Caitlin's meticulous system, culminating in a total of $47,312, an amount that represented far more than financial generosity. It represented hundreds of children's hopes being brought to life. On December 23rd, while the pupils attended a holiday party in the gymnasium, Caitlin and her volunteers transformed every classroom into a winter wonderland, placing wrapped presents on each desk, each gift tagged with the child's name and a handwritten note from Santa that referred to something personal, a favorite color, a hobby, a strength, so the children would feel seen, not pitted. When the pupils returned, a stunned silence filled the corridors as 420 children froze in their doorways, eyes wide, hands trembling, unable to process the magic before them. Tears followed. Children, teachers, parents, even the janitor who had worked there for 15 years and said he had never witnessed anything so moving. Destiny Martinez, the 8-year-old whose heartfelt letter had inspired everything, found her desk covered in books, art supplies, and a journal engraved with her name. But the gift that made her cry was a note tucked beneath the wrapping. "Dear Destiny, I got your letter. Magic is real, it lives in people who care, and it grows every time we choose to believe in it. Keep believing. Love, Santa." In the weeks that followed, the impact echoed far beyond Christmas morning. Attendance improved, children became more engaged,